Welcome to We've Got a Country to Save, brought to you by my friends at InvestYRefy.com. Invest in America like I do. And by Freedom Chat. Freedom Chat has true end-to-end encryption, no storage of messages on the server, and no commercial use of user data. Speak freely and message privately. Download the app today and subscribe to my Freedom Chat channel at Larry Elder for exclusive posts and never-before-seen content. We also thank Epoch Times, Old Glory Bank, Patriot Mobile, and Birch Gold. And make sure to follow or subscribe to my channel on whatever platform you are using, whether X, YouTube, Facebook, or Rumble. And be sure to patronize our sponsors. And if you don't patronize our sponsors, well...
Right turn, Clyde.
We know where you live. Now, I know what you guys want me to talk about, and I'm going to deliver the WNBA playoffs.
Caitlin Clark and DeWanna Bonner jawing at each other a little bit, and I guess they're just... It's like when you have your two kids, don't touch me.
Okay, I psyched you out. But we do have a clip of this Hall of Famer ball player.
We're getting ready to vote.
Yeah.
Okay, about the VP debate. Weird J.D. Vance came across as not weird. Calm, cool, collected, poised, compassionate, and dare I say, likable. He promoted a kinder, gentler brand of MAGA.
She's gonna do a superhero landing. Wait for it. Woo! Superhero landing.
On the other hand, assistant coach, don't say coach. Governor Tim Walz, white guy tacos, I'll fix your carburetor, came across like a dog waiting for a ball to be thrown.
What's wrong with him?
I don't know. Whatever it is, it seems pretty serious.
Oh my goodness, you are so cute. Can I pet your dog?
Of course.
What's their name?
The Scout.
How old is he?
Scout's 5.
So old enough to vote in dog years.
He is old enough to vote. He's experienced.
Is he a lab mix?
He's a lab, boxer, chow chow.
Oh, wow.
A little of everything in him.
Wow. And I'm so sorry, what's your name?
My name's Tim.
Do you mind if I join you on your walk?
I'd love to have you.
Harry?
But what was Tim Walz supposed to do? Even J.D. Vance felt sorry for him.
And I honestly, Tim, I think you got a tough job here because you've got to play whack-a-mole. You've got to pretend that Donald Trump didn't deliver rising take-home pay, which of course he did. You've got to pretend that Donald Trump didn't deliver lower inflation, which of course he did. And then you simultaneously got to defend Kamala Harris's atrocious economic record, which has made gas, groceries, and housing unaffordable for American citizens.
Hi, folks. Do you trust this economy? What if you could receive a strong fixed rate of return that's not correlated to the stock market or the Fed? And what if you were in control? You could turn your income on or off, compound it, whatever you choose. What if your interest was compounded daily, you were paid monthly, and there were absolutely no fees? And what if you could have peace of mind because there was no attack on your principal if you ever needed your money back? Well, folks, there is an investment with all of these features. Investors all over the country are earning a high fixed rate of return with Yrefy, and they don't care about what happens with the stock market or the Fed. And best of all, they receive their statement every month with no surprises. Would you like some more information? Just call 877-80-INVEST. That's 877-80-INVEST. Or log on to investyrefy.com. That's investyrefy.com. Yrefy, do well by doing good. As for Kamala Harris's role in our 40-year high inflation, check out this exchange between Representative Byron Donalds and Charlemagne the God. And Charlemagne's God, a fact to a toe tag liberal, is like daylight to a vampire co-host.
Are we thriving? Are members in your state, black folks in your state,
I would argue
thriving?
we're not really thriving right now. This inflation, which, by the way, was brought to us by Kamala Harris, has really slowed down people from being able to excel.
By Kamala?
Yes.
The vice president.
Oh, Charlemagne.
It's still the president.
Charlemagne, listen, man. When Joe Biden wanted to do his American Rescue Plan, Kamala Harris was the tie-breaking vote in the United States Senate. She broke the tie that started this inflation that has hurt so many people in our country. Everybody listening to your show. It's not true?
First of all, it's true that it's a tie-breaking vote.
You sure you want to go there?
When you go outside, Congressman, when you go outside,
you sure you want to go there?
district,
Okay, let's go there.
You had it.
You got notes. You got notes, Angela, right?
That's fine. I have notes
I'm
too.
gonna give it to Charlemagne.
Note I have today
I'm gonna give it to Charlemagne.
Is that on
I don't
every
even want to
question
hold it.
I've asked,
Because Angela, hold on now.
For every infrastructure project in your community,
you can go to
you
third
should go
page,
out
just the
and
highlighted
thank
portion.
Joe Biden and Kamala Harris and the Congress that voted for the American Rescue Plan.
Angela,
that's what should be happening.
Larry Summers wrote an op-ed back in 2021. Larry Summers was the Treasury Secretary for Bill Clinton. He was an economic advisor to Barack Obama. Mm-hmm. He said that the American Rescue Plan that Joe Biden wanted, that Kamala Harris was the tie-breaking vote in the United States Senate, would create a massive inflation that we have not seen in a generation. Well, guess what? Larry Summers was correct. You know who also was correct, Angela? I was, because I was in the Budget Committee when they brought the bill. And I said in that committee, it's going to cause massive inflation. That's what happened. So the problem we have in our economy today is that prices have gone up massively. Wages adjusted for inflation is down. People's pocketbooks are hurting. But we have a presidential election in 40 days. So, and I'm gonna ask Envy this question. Envy, you're in the housing business as well. I know because I listen to the show. Interviewed. No, I'm just asking them a question. Chill, Angela. So I listen to the show. I know you do a lot of business in housing. Mm-hmm. Would you hire somebody that broke up stuff in one of your houses to fix the other houses?
No.
Exactly. She broke the economy.
I'm not going to do this morning, Byron.
Why are you not going to do this, Angela? Because I'm bringing facts. Hold on now. So now I'm bringing facts and you don't want to do it no more? Come on now, Angela. That's not right. I'm bringing facts. I thought we were going to have a fact-based conversation. I want to have a fact-based conversation.
Democrat economists warned Biden-Harris it would cause inflation. And it did. As to VP debate night, how about we fact-check the fact-checkers? There was this exchange.
We do want to blame Kamala Harris for letting in millions of illegal aliens into this country, which does drive up costs, Tim. 25 million illegal aliens competing with Americans for scarce homes is one of the most significant drivers of home prices in the country. It's why we have massive increases in home prices that have happened right alongside massive increases in illegal alien populations under Kamala Harris's leadership. Now, Tim just mentioned a bunch of ideas. Now, some of those ideas I actually think are halfway decent, and some of them I disagree with. But the most important thing here is Kamala Harris is not running as a newcomer to politics. She is the sitting vice president. If she wants to enact all of these policies to make housing more affordable, I invite her to use the office that the American people already gave her, not sit around and campaign and do nothing while Americans find the American dream of homeownership completely unaffordable. Now, you asked, Margaret, what would immediately change the equation for American citizens if you lower energy prices? As Donald Trump says, drill, baby, drill. One of the biggest drivers of housing costs, aside from illegal immigration, is, think about it, if a truck driver's paying 40% more for diesel, then the lumber he's delivering to the job site to build the house is also going to become a lot more expensive. If we open up American energy, you will get immediate pricing relief for American citizens, not, by the way, just in housing, but in a whole host of other economic goods, too.
Senator Vance, you still have 23 seconds there. Do you want to answer?
Can I have it?
Where, Governor, we will get to you in a moment. But, Senator, where are you going to seize the federal lands? Can you clarify?
Well, what Donald Trump has said is we have a lot of federal lands that aren't being used for anything. They're not being used for a national park. They're not being used, and they could be places where we build a lot of housing. And I do think that we should be opening up building in this country. We have a lot of land that could be used. We have a lot of Americans that need homes. We should be kicking out illegal immigrants who are competing for those homes, and we should be building more homes for the American citizens who deserve to be here.
But, Senator, on that point, I'd like for you to clarify, there are many contributing factors to high housing costs. What evidence do you have that migrants are part of this problem?
Well, there's a Federal Reserve study that we're happy to share after the debate. We'll put it up on social media, actually, that really drills down on the connection between increased levels of migration, especially illegal immigration, and higher housing prices. Now, of course, Margaret, that's not the entire driver of higher housing prices. It's also the regulatory regime of Kamala Harris. Look, we are a country of builders. We're a country of doers. We're a country of explorers. But we increasingly have a federal administration that makes it harder to develop our resources, makes it harder to build things, and wants to throw people in jail for not doing everything exactly as Kamala Harris says they have to do. And what that means is that you have a lot of people who would love to build homes who aren't able to build homes.
Vance said he would post the information about the impact of illegal immigration on the price of housing, and that's exactly what he did. This is what he posted on X. As promised earlier tonight, here's Michelle Baumann of the Federal Reserve Board of Governors. Baumann stated, there is a risk that strong consumer demand for services, increased immigration, and continued labor market tightness could lead to a persistently high core services inflation. Given the current low inventory of affordable housing, the inflow of new immigrants to some geographic areas could result in upward pressure on rents, as additional housing supply may take time to materialize. End of quote.
What can I say? Mamba out.
Here's another.
Senator Vance, according to CBS News polling, 7 in 10 Americans and more than 60% of Republicans under the age of 45 favor the U.S. taking steps to try and reduce climate change. Senator, what responsibility would the Trump administration have to try and reduce the impact of climate change? I'll give you 2 minutes.
Sure. So first of all, let's start with the hurricane, because it's an unbelievable, unspeakable human tragedy. I just saw today, actually, a photograph of 2 grandparents on a roof with a 6-year-old child, and it was the last photograph ever taken of them because the roof collapsed and those innocent people lost their lives. And I'm sure Governor Walz joins me in saying our hearts go out to those innocent people, our prayers go out to them, and we want as robust and aggressive as a federal response as we can get to save as many lives as possible, and then, of course, afterwards, to help the people in those communities rebuild. I mean, these are communities that I love. Some of them I know very personally in Appalachia, all across the Southeast. They need their government to do their job, and I commit that when Donald Trump is president again, the government will put the citizens of this country first when they suffer from a disaster. Now, Nora, you asked about climate change. I think this is a very important issue. Look, a lot of people are justifiably worried about all these crazy weather patterns. I think it's important for us, first of all, to say, Donald Trump and I support clean air, clean water. We want the environment to be cleaner and safer. But one of the things that I've noticed some of our Democratic friends talking a lot about is a concern about carbon emissions, this idea that carbon emissions drives all of the climate change. Well, let's just say that's true, just for the sake of argument, so we're not arguing about weird science. Let's just say that's true. Well, if you believe that, what would you want to do? The answer is that you'd want to reshore as much American manufacturing as possible, and you'd want to produce as much energy as possible in the United States of America, because we're the cleanest economy in the entire world. What have Kamala Harris's policies actually led to? More energy production in China, more manufacturing overseas, more doing business in some of the dirtiest parts of the entire world. And when I say that, I mean the amount of carbon emissions they're doing per unit of economic output. So if we actually care about getting cleaner air and cleaner water, the best thing to do is to double down and invest in American workers and the American people. And unfortunately, Kamala Harris has done exactly the opposite.
Governor Walz, you have 2 minutes to respond.
Well, we got close to an agreement because all those things are happening. Look, first of all, it is a horrific tragedy with this hurricane, and my heart goes out to the folks that are down there in contact with the governors. I serve as co-chair of the Council of Governors as we work together on these emergency managements. Governors know no partisanship. They work together. So all of the governors and the emergency responders are on the ground. Those happen on the front end. The federal government comes in, makes sure they're there to that we recover, but we're still in that phase where we need to make sure that they're staying there, staying focused. Now, look, coming back to the climate change issue, there's no doubt this thing roared onto the scene faster and stronger than anything we've seen. Senator Vance has said that there's a climate problem in the past. Donald Trump called it a hoax and then joked that these things would make more beachfront property to be able to invest in. What we've seen out of the Harris administration now, the Biden-Harris administration, is we've seen this investment. We've seen massive investments, the biggest in global history that we've seen in the Inflation Reduction Act, has created jobs all across the country. 2,000 in Jeffersonville, Ohio, taking the EV technology that we invented and making it here. 200,000 jobs across the country. The largest solar manufacturing plant in North America sits in Minnesota. But my farmers know climate change is real. They've seen 500-year droughts, 500-year floods back to back. But what they're doing is adapting, and this has allowed them to tell me, look, I harvest corn, I harvest soybean, and I harvest wind. We are producing more natural gas and more oil at any time than we ever have. We're also producing more clean energy. So the solution for us is to continue to move forward, that climate change is real. Reducing our impact is absolutely critical, but this is not a false choice. You can do that at the same time you're creating the jobs that we're seeing all across the country. That's exactly what this administration has done. We are seeing us becoming an energy superpower for the future, not just the current. And that's what absolutely makes sense. And then we start thinking about how do we mitigate these disasters.
Thank you. Senator, I want to give you an opportunity to respond there. The governor mentioned that President Trump has called climate change a hoax. Do you agree?
Well, look, what the president has said is that if the Democrats, in particular Kamala Harris and her leadership, if they really believe that climate change is serious, what they would be doing is more manufacturing and more energy production in the United States of America, and that's not what they're doing. So clearly, Kamala Harris herself doesn't believe her own rhetoric on this. If she did, she would actually agree with Donald Trump's energy policies. Now, something Governor Walz said I think is important to touch upon, because when we talk about clean energy, I think that's a slogan that often the Democrats will use here. And I'm talking, of course, about the Democratic leadership. And the real issue is that if you're spending hundreds of millions or even billions of dollars of American taxpayer money on solar panels that are made in China, number one, you're going to make the economy dirtier. We should be making more of those solar panels here in the United States of America. Some of them are, Tim, but a lot of them are being made overseas in China, especially the components that go into those solar panels. So if you really want to make the environment cleaner, you've got to invest in more energy production. We haven't built a nuclear facility, I think, one in the past 40 years. Senator. Natural gas, we got to invest more in it. Kamala Harris has done the opposite. That's raised energy prices and also meant that we're doing worse by the climate. Senator, your time is up.
Really? A complete and total consensus?
One of the areas that I've been working on for many years, perhaps too many, is climate. As such, I felt that over the years we were making some progress in understanding how climate worked. It's a difficult question. It has many aspects. The Earth has done so very many things. I mean, we've had 50 million years ago, the so-called equable climate of the Eocene, when the poles were warm enough so that near the poles at Spitsbergen you had alligator fossils. We've also had the sequence of ice ages during the last 800,000 years. They're even going back 2.5 billion years ago, we had something called the early faint sun, when, as best we can tell, the brightness of the sun was 20–30% less than today. And yet the geological evidence is that the oceans were unfrozen. Just for a point of comparison, this is a change at least 10 times bigger than we expect from a doubling of CO2. And yet it's entirely possible nothing dramatic happened. So the evidence, I think, is that while the climate is variable, there are bounds to it, and the system itself overall is quite robust. Having said that, we're now in a kind of panic state over what seems to be a small change in the forcing. Whether that's legitimate or not, I can't say for sure, but I would think any reasonable person would begin to wonder if this wondrous climate engine is simply a function of one parameter, CO2. That would be implausible. And yet with Copenhagen, it almost seems as though people are not only accepting it, but wishing to canonize it in international law. I mean, that would set back science, the science of climate, generations. In fact, the whole idea of international law deciding science would set back science centuries. It would also have severe impacts on people's lives, and for the most part, they will be negative. As far as Copenhagen goes, one certainly hopes somebody draws a halt to this march to the precipice.
Let me ask you a question. How many of you are concerned about the invasion of privacy that is currently going on by the Biden administration? Biden's DOJ is invading individuals' private messages and targeting them based on their political affiliation, and that's why I partnered with Freedom Chat, a private social messaging app that, like me, believes privacy is your fundamental human right. Freedom Chat has variable end-to-end encryption, built-in screenshot protection, no storage of messages on their servers, and no commercial use of user data. I'm such a fan of Freedom Chat, in fact, that I have created my own private channel that you can subscribe to for exclusive content, including never-seen images, videos, and posts. Simply download the app, or if you're on Android, join their waitlist. Search for my channel and subscribe. No one can see the channels that you are subscribed to or the posts that you react to. It's your own perfectly curated private news feed. Speak freely and message privately with Freedom Chat. Download the app today and subscribe to my channel at Larry Elder for exclusive posts and never-before-seen content. And then there is this exchange about the border bill that Donald Trump allegedly tanked.
We're going to turn now to immigration. The crisis at the U.S.-Mexico border consistently ranks as one of the top issues for American voters. Senator Vance, your campaign is pledging to carry out the largest mass deportation plan in American history and to use the U.S. military to do so. Could you be more specific about exactly how this will work? For example, would you deport parents who have entered the U.S. illegally and separate them from any of their children who were born on U.S. soil? You have 2 minutes.
So first of all, Margaret, before we talk about deportations, we have to stop the bleeding. We have a historic immigration crisis because Kamala Harris started and said that she wanted to undo all of Donald Trump's border policies. 94 executive orders suspending deportations, decriminalizing illegal aliens, massively increasing the asylum fraud that exists in our system. That has opened the floodgates. And what it's meant is that a lot of fentanyl is coming into our country. I had a mother who struggled with opioid addiction and has gotten clean. I don't want people who are struggling with addiction to be deprived of their second chance because Kamala Harris let in fentanyl into our communities at record levels. So you've got to stop the bleeding. You've got to re-implement Donald Trump's border policies, build the wall, re-implement deportations. And that gets me to your point, Margaret, about what do we actually do? So we've got 25 million illegal aliens who are here in the country. What do we do with them? I think the first thing that we do is we start with the criminal migrants. About 1 million of those people have committed some form of crime in addition to crossing the border illegally. I think you start with deportations on those folks. And then I think you make it harder for illegal aliens to undercut the wages of American workers. A lot of people will go home if they can't work for less than minimum wage in our own country. And by the way, that'll be really good for our workers who just want to earn a fair wage for doing a good day's work. And the final point, Margaret, is you ask about family separation. Right now in this country, Margaret, we have 320,000 children that the Department of Homeland Security has effectively lost. Some of them have been sex trafficked. Some of them hopefully are at homes with their families. Some of them have been used as drug trafficking mules. The real family separation policy in this country is unfortunately Kamala Harris's wide open southern border. And I'd ask my fellow Americans to remember when she came into office, she said she was going to do this. Real leadership would be saying, you know what, I screwed up. We're going to go back to Donald Trump's border policies. I wish that she would do that. It would be good for all of us.
Governor, do you care to respond to any of those specific allegations, including that the vice president is, quote, letting in fentanyl and using kids as drug mules, among other things regarding children?
The drug mule is not true, but I will say about this, about the fentanyl, because this is a crisis of this, the opioid crisis. And the good news on this is the last 12 months saw the largest decrease in opioid deaths in our nation's history, 30% decrease in Ohio. But there's still more work to do. But let's go back to this on immigration. Kamala Harris was the Attorney General of the largest state, a border state in California. She's the only person in this race who prosecuted transnational gangs for human trafficking and drug interventions. But look, we all want to solve this. Most of us want to solve this, and that is the United States Congress. That's the Border Patrol agents. That's the Chamber of Commerce. That's most Americans out here. That's why we had the fairest and the toughest bill on immigration that this nation's seen. It was crafted by a conservative senator from Oklahoma, James Lankford. I know him. He's super conservative, but he's a man of principle, wants to get it done. Democrats and Republicans worked on this piece of legislation. The Border Patrol said, this is what we need in here. These are the experts. And the Chamber of Commerce and the Wall Street Journal said, pass this thing. Kamala Harris helped get there. 1,500 new border agents, detection for drugs, DOJ money to speed up these the adjudications on this, just what America wants. But as soon as I was getting ready to pass and actually tackle this, Donald Trump said no, told them to vote against it because it gives him a campaign issue. It gives him to, what would Donald Trump talk about if we actually did some of these things? And they need to be done by the legislature. You can't just do this through the executive branch.
Really? First, it was an amnesty bill. Second, you didn't need to have a bill to secure the border. Just your reversal of the Trump border policies that Biden started to unravel on day one.
We definitely feel your pain. I talked to President Trump this morning, and he says this is a scam and people will see through it. I think he's dead right. If you want the border secured and you're waiting on this group to do it, you're going to die waiting. So the policy, as I understand it, is going to be an economic boom for the cartels. This is literally some of the best things that could happen for the business of illegal immigration, because there's going to be a cap where you kind of shut it down every day. So if you're a cartel, you're going to rack and stack them. You're going to find out exactly how many can get through a day. You say, who would like to pay more to move up to the line? The biggest beneficiary of this policy is going to be human trafficking cartels who will charge more to get in the group that's going to go through. And at the end of the day, you'll have to wait longer and pay more, but you're coming in. And if you want to stop the flow, here's what President Trump said he will do on day one. They will keep coming until they see people leaving. He told me this morning, when he gets to be president, not only is he going to secure the border, he's going to deport hundreds of thousands of people here illegally. And if you want to shut down illegal immigration, those coming need to see an outflow by the tens and hundreds of thousands. That will deter. The only policy change that will work is to have mass deportations, because people will stop coming when they see people leaving.
Then there's what Vance said about the legal status of Haitian immigrants and got fact-checked. But Vance, on the spot, fact-checked the fact-checker.
First of all, the gross majority of what we need to do at the southern border is just empowering law enforcement to do their job. I've been to the southern border more than our borders are. Kamala Harris has been. And it's actually heartbreaking because the Border Patrol agents, they just want to be empowered to do their job. Of course, additional resources would help, but most of this is about the president and the vice president empowering our law enforcement to say, if you try to come across the border illegally, you've got to stay in Mexico, you've got to go back through proper channels. Now, Governor Walz brought up the community of Springfield, and he's very worried about the things that I've said in Springfield. Look, in Springfield, Ohio, and in communities all across this country, you've got schools that are overwhelmed. You've got hospitals that are overwhelmed. You've got housing that is totally unaffordable because we brought in millions of illegal immigrants to compete with Americans for scarce homes. The people that I'm most worried about in Springfield, Ohio, are the American citizens who have had their lives destroyed by Kamala Harris's open border. It is a disgrace, Tim. And I actually think, I agree with you. I think you want to solve this problem, but I don't think that Kamala Harris does.
Senator, your time is up. Governor, you have 1 minute to respond.
Yeah, well, it is law enforcement that asked for the bill. They helped craft it. They're the ones that supported it. That's because they know we need to do this. Look, this issue of continuing to bring this up, of not dealing with it, of blaming migrants for everything. On housing, we could talk a little bit about Wall Street speculators buying up housing and making them less affordable, but it becomes a blame. Look, this bill also gives the money necessary to adjudicate. I agree, it should not take 7 years for an asylum claim to be done. This bill gets it done in 90 days. Then you start to make a difference in this, and you start to adhere to what we know, American principles. I don't talk about my faith a lot, but Matthew 25:40 talks about, to the least amongst us you do unto me. I think that's true of most Americans. They simply want order to it. This bill does it. It's funded. It's supported by the people who do it. And it lets us keep our dignity about how we treat other people.
Thank you, Governor. And just to clarify for our viewers, Springfield, Ohio does have a large number of Haitian migrants who have legal status, temporary protected status.
Well, Margaret, but
thank you, Senator. We have so much to get to.
Margaret, I think it's important because
we're going to turn out of the economy. Thank
Margaret,
you.
the rules were that you guys weren't going to fact check, and since you're fact checking me, I think it's important to say what's actually going on. So there's an application called the CBP One app, where you can go on as an illegal migrant, apply for asylum or apply for parole, and be granted legal status at the wave of a Kamala Harris open border wand. That is not a person coming in, applying for a green card and waiting for 10 years. That is the facilitation of illegal immigration, Margaret, by our own leadership.
Thank you, Senator, for describing the legal process. We have so much to get to, Senator.
Those laws have been on the books since 1990.
Thank you, gentlemen.
The CBP One app has not been on the books since 1990. It's something that Kamala Harris created, Margaret.
Gentlemen, the audience can't hear you because your mics are cut. We have so much we want to get to. Thank you for explaining the legal process.
Did they have apps in 1990? If you weren't following the news, a massive hit to the U.S. dollar came in June when Saudi Arabia did not renew its 50-year petrodollar deal with the U.S. You see, since 1974, Saudi Arabia has sold oil solely in U.S. dollars, and that was huge to our global economic dominance. Now they want options other than the U.S. dollar. So I ask you, if there is less demand for the dollar, what happens to the dollar? Look, it's reasons like this that Americans turn to Birch Gold Group. For over 20 years, Birch Gold has helped tens of thousands of Americans protect their savings by converting an IRA or 401k into an IRA into physical gold. To learn more, visit LarryForGold.com and claim your free, no-obligation info kit on gold. Again, visit LarryForGold.com. Birch Gold has earned my trust with their education-first approach, their thousands of happy customers, and their countless 5-star reviews. Protect your savings with gold before the dollar plunges any further. Visit LarryForGold.com today. That's LarryForGold.com today. Americans have had enough of supporting companies that hate our values. Tired of compromise? So am I. It's time to switch to Patriot Mobile, America's only Christian conservative wireless provider. They are an example of putting the cause ahead of profits, and that's why I'm proud to partner with them. Patriot Mobile offers dependable nationwide coverage, giving you access to all 3 major networks, which means you get the same coverage you've been accustomed to without funding the left. When you switch over to Patriot Mobile, you're sending a message that you support the First Amendment, the Second Amendment, the sanctity of life, and our military vets and our first responder heroes. Their 100% U.S.-based customer service team makes it easy to switch, keep your number, keep your phone, or upgrade. Their team will help you find the best plan for your needs. Just go to patriotmobile.com/Larry or call 972-PATRIOT. That's patriotmobile.com/Larry or call 972-PATRIOT. Get free activation when you use the offer code Larry. Join me and make that switch today. patriotmobile.com/Larry, patriotmobile.com/Larry or call 972-PATRIOT. Trump's a threat to democracy? They've called him fascist, Nazi, Hitler. This rhetoric has led to 2 assassination attempts. And then there's Lawfare. Just today, Tom, Jack Smith dropped his amended prosecution against Donald Trump for the alleged insurrection of January 6th. It's 150 pages. I haven't read the whole thing. But yet another example of this lawfare targeting Donald Trump that you talk about in your book.
Yeah, we've never seen anything like it before in American history. Obviously, the indictment of a former president, really on political charges. When you look at what Jack Smith did and what he's been arguing, certainly as it relates to the election dispute, is that he wants to jail Trump for disputing an election. And the Supreme Court, threw quite the brushback in terms of a pitch. He doesn't care. Judge Chutkan, the Democrat Obama appointee here in the District of Columbia, doesn't care. And they've issued this extraordinary document based on secret testimony as far as the public is concerned, because no one knows who's saying what yet. Basically suggesting disputing an election is a crime.
Right.
And anyone who had questions about the 2020 election is a liar. So not only is it like interference in the current election, but it's also a signal to those who might want to raise questions about the 2024 election, depending on what happens, that if you do it, and no matter what you do in good faith, no matter how well-founded your concerns are, we're going to come after you like we're coming after Trump.
Mm-hmm. And Tom, Al Gore to this day believes that the Supreme Court put George W. Bush in office. Tom, I just played you a montage of Hillary whining about the 2016 election. How much of the things you talk about in your book, whether it's the COVID cover-up, January 6th, DEI, and all this diversity scam, is driven by Donald Trump? I mention that because I've written in the past about all the horrible things that Democrats have said for decades about Republicans. When Barry Goldwater got nominated in 1964, Tom, the then governor of California said, and I'm quoting, "The stench of fascism is in the air," close quote. Fast forward to Ronald Reagan in 1980. One of the members of the House said, Ronald Reagan, and I'm paraphrasing, gets his fascist precepts from the pages of Mein Kampf, close quote. George Soros likened George W. Bush to Joseph Goebbels. So they have been referring to Republicans as fascists and Nazis for a very long time. But on Donald Trump, it's almost as if it's on steroids, Tom.
Yeah, I think the kind of the left's attack on their political opponents metastasized. It really began under Obama. And, we forget that Obama was reelected after suppressing the Tea Party movement. Everyone wondered what happened to it in 2012. Well, it had been suppressed by Obama's IRS. And they thought they were going to be able to do the same thing against Donald Trump by sticking the FBI and other agencies on him in 2016. And it didn't work out as they intended. And so they just continued to abuse him. They leveraged every possible crisis, especially the COVID crisis, to target and abuse him. And many of the lies we saw with COVID, I think you make an interesting point, were not so much about the public health, but it was about hurting Trump. And for instance, they didn't like his policy vis-a-vis China, and so the medical establishment, the Fauci gang, went out of their way to protect China and defend it, not because China was something they particularly liked. Obviously, they had a money interest there and professional interest in partnering with the Chinese regime, but they didn't want to provide any grist for Trump to criticize China. And that's one of the reasons why we didn't get the full picture about China's role in COVID and, frankly, Fauci's role in COVID because of this anti-Trump animus.
Mm-hmm. Tom, Donald Trump is a multi-billionaire. As you know, all these lawsuits against him, both civil and criminal. In some cases, I think he's able to use money that he's raised for his campaign for legal defense. But suppose Donald Trump were not a multi-billionaire. How would these cases have evolved?
Oh, well, the financial strain on him, his family, and his campaign, and whatever operations he was running politically, as most former presidents have, especially someone who's probably going to run again, would have been severely constrained. I would argue they have been severely constrained, even as a billionaire. When you're charged in federal court, when you're charged in state court, and you face the loss of your freedom, that's a pretty big distraction. And, you know, I know folks have said that, well, you know, he's benefited from these from this lawfare. Well, I don't know. I don't know if that's the case. I think the election's been compromised by the lawfare. Indeed, if politicians thought prosecutions and indictments would help them get into office, they'd all be lined up at the Justice Department. Obviously, it's a negative, and you know, the money isn't the issue for Trump. It's the focus and the distraction. And, you know, remember, he spent 6 weeks essentially held hostage in Judge Merchan's courtroom as he went through this show trial proceeding over arguments over the valuations of his property. Just incredible. And to me, that's time he could have spent on the campaign. And I tell you, you know, the question is, the election, in my view, has been compromised with this lawfare. Will it be so compromised that people don't trust the outcome, whatever it is?
I'm talking to Tom Fitton. The book is called Rights and Freedoms in Peril, an investigative report on the left's attack on America. Tom, I'm a lawyer, and I thought it was a violation of the canons of ethics for a prosecutor to run promising to get a particular person. Letitia James did so. Alvin Bragg did so. Fonnie Lewis did so. Where is the American Bar Association? Where are all these people that supposedly, like the ACLU, are all lined up to protect our freedoms?
No, they're doing the exact opposite. The bars, not the Bar Association, but the local bars, your listeners should know, the guilds mostly at the local level, they police the ethics of lawyers. And what do? They're targeting lawyers who helped Trump during the elections, as you're pointing out, with John Eastman, Rudy Giuliani here in Washington, D.C., and up in New York. Other lawyers have been harassed and victimized, and they tried to prosecute them for being lawyers. And, you know, and what's the right and freedom under assault when that happens?
Well, Tom, we're going to have to leave it right
to counsel.
We're going to have to leave it right there.
Counsel. They don't want conservatives to have lawyers.
We're going to have to leave it there. Rights and freedoms. And what is this deal about Tim Walz in Hong Kong in China?
Governor Walz, you said you were in Hong Kong during the deadly Tiananmen Square protests in the spring of 1989. But Minnesota Public Radio and other media outlets are reporting that you actually didn't travel to Asia until August of that year. Can you explain that discrepancy?
Yeah, well, and to the folks out there who didn't get at the top of this, look, I grew up in small rural Nebraska, town of 400, town that you rode your bike with your buddies till the streetlights come on, and I'm proud of that service.
Say that one more time.
Town that you rode your bike with your buddies till the streetlights come on, and I'm proud of that service.
So this came up during the debate.
When did you live in China?
Late 80s.
Okay.
So, you know, I was there. I see this happening in Hong Kong as a more serious note. I was in Hong Kong on June 4th, 1989, when, of course, Tiananmen Square happened. And I was in China after that. It was very strange because, of course, all outside transmissions were blocked, Voice of America, and, of course, there was no phones or email or anything. So I was kind of out of touch. It took me a month to know the Berlin Wall had fallen when I was living there.
It turns out he wasn't in Hong Kong at the time of Tiananmen Square.
I joined the National Guard at 17, worked on family farms, and then I used the GI Bill to become a teacher, passionate about it, a young teacher. My first year out, I got the opportunity in the summer of '89 to travel to China. 35 years ago, be able to do that. I came back home and then started a program to take young people there. We would take basketball teams, we would take baseball teams, we would take dancers, and we would go back and forth to China. The issue for that was to try and learn. Now, look, my community knows who I am. They saw where I was at. They Look, I will be the first to tell you, I have poured my heart into my community. I've tried to do the best I can, but I've not been perfect. And I'm a knucklehead at times, but it's always been about that. Many times I will talk a lot. I will get caught up in the rhetoric. But being there, the impact it made, the difference it made in my life, I learned a lot about China. I hear the critiques of this. I would make the case that Donald Trump should have come on one of those trips with us. I guarantee you he wouldn't be praising Xi Jinping about COVID. And I guarantee you he wouldn't start a trade war that he ends up losing. So this is about trying to understand the world. It's about trying to do the best you can for your community. And then it's putting yourself out there and letting your folks understand what it is. My commitment, whether it be through teaching, which I was good at, or whether it was being a good soldier or was being a good member of Congress, those are the things that I think are the values that people care about.
Governor, just to follow up on that, the question was, can you explain the discrepancy?
All I said on this was I got there that summer and misspoke on this. So I will just, that's what I've said. So I was in Hong Kong and China during the democracy protests went in. And from that, I learned a lot of what needed to be in governance.
Sometimes I could be a knucklehead. Sometimes.
And I'm so sorry, what's your name?
My name's Tim.
The Middle East is on fire as a result of the Biden-Harris policies, and Governor Walz was asked whether he would support a preemptive strike against Iran. And he looked like he wanted to find a table to hide under.
Governor Walz, if you were the final voice in the Situation Room, would you support or oppose a preemptive strike by Israel on Iran? You have 2 minutes.
Well, thank you. And thank you for those joining at home tonight. Let's keep in mind where this started. October 7th, Hamas terrorists massacred over 1,400 Israelis and took prisoners. Israel's ability to be able to defend itself is absolutely fundamental. Getting its hostages back, fundamental, and ending the humanitarian crisis in Gaza. But the expansion of Israel and its proxies is an absolute fundamental necessity for the United States to have the steady leadership there. You saw it experienced today, where along with our Israeli partners and our coalition, able to stop the incoming attack. But what's fundamental here is that steady leadership is going to matter. It's clear, and the world saw it on that debate stage a few weeks ago, a nearly 80-year-old Donald Trump talking about crowd sizes is not what we need in this moment. But it's not just that. It's those that were closest to Donald Trump that understand how dangerous he is when the world is this dangerous. His chief of staff, John Kelly, said that he was the most flawed human being he'd ever met. And both of his secretaries of defense and his national security advisors said he should be nowhere near the White House. Now, the person closest to them, Donald Trump, said he's unfit for the highest office. That was Senator Vance. What we've seen out of Vice President Harris is we've seen steady leadership. We've seen a calmness that is able to draw on the coalitions to bring them together. Understanding that our allies matter. When our allies see Donald Trump turn towards Vladimir Putin, turn towards North Korea, when we start to see that type of fickleness around holding the coalitions together, we will stay committed. And as the Vice President said today we will protect our forces and our allied forces, and there will be consequences.
And that is why we need Trump, a real commander-in-chief, back in office. Not a joke. Not a joke.
When we were negotiating with the Taliban, while President Trump was still the president, President Trump wanted to get out of Afghanistan, but he wanted a conditions-based withdrawal. Meaning that you do what we tell you to do, and then we will start pulling troops back slowly as long as you abide by our rules. It's President Trump and Mike Pompeo, and they are talking to Taliban leadership in the room, and they had one translator in the room. President Trump looked at the Taliban leader and said this: I want to leave Afghanistan, but it's going to be a conditions-based withdrawal. And translator translated. And he said, if you harm a hair on a single American, I'm going to kill you. And the translator goes, and Trump goes, tell him. Translate.
Yes. Tell him what I said.
Tell him what I said. Reached in his pocket, pulled out a satellite photo of the leader of the Taliban's home and handed it to him.
Shut up.
Got up and walked out the room.
Sure did.
Do you know for 18 months not a single American was killed in Afghanistan? Sure did. That's the definition of strength.
I'm not joking. I mean, literally, listen to the scientists. Not a joke. Not a joke. I sincerely mean this, and I really mean it. I'm not being facetious. I'm not being facetious. Oh, I'm serious. I really mean it. No, I mean it. I'm not being facetious. No, I'm serious. Not a joke. Not a joke. I'm serious. Heads of state. I'm not a joke. I'm not joking. I'm not being facetious now. I'm being deadly earnest. No, I'm not being a wise guy. But all kidding aside, I'm not joking. No, I mean it. I'm serious. No, I'm not. You think I'm joking? I'm not. You know what I mean? I really mean it. I genuinely mean it. Oh, you think I'm kidding? I'm not kidding. You think I'm kidding? I'm not.
And that's why we all need to pull together to thwart these attempts and to bring back American strength, power, and prestige. We will soon have it back. No threat will shake me. No enemy will intimidate me. And I have never been more determined than I am today, and I will never back down in my fight to make America great again, which is what we're doing. So I want to make that statement because we are under threat. I have been threatened very directly, and I appreciate the agencies that we've been meeting with, but we've been threatened very directly by Iran. And I think you have to let them know, because the best way to do it is through the office of the president, that you do any attacks on former presidents or candidates for president, your country gets blown to smithereens, as we say.
More than just beautiful dance. It's a touch of the divine. More than just legends. It's the beautiful culture and wisdom of China before communism. More than just a performance. It's an experience that awakens the soul. See it at least once in your lifetime.
I have never seen a production any better than this, anywhere.
Breathtaking. It is absolutely stunning.
I feel better about the world. I feel uplifted.
Invigorating. It was encouraging, gave me hope.
This has just been therapy for the soul.
It's a must-see. Must-see.
Make sure you see it. Make sure you see it.
A Real Clear Markets article said Bank of America needs to come clean about debanking practices. It wrote, and I'm quoting, "More victims of Bank of America's debanking regime have come forward, including Timothy II Project International and constitutional scholar John Eastman, a friend of mine, both debanked under similar circumstances by the nation's second largest bank. The bank's lack of transparency about cancellations that suspiciously look like they are based on viewpoint is why shareholders sought a report assessing whether the bank's policies and practices pose a risk of politicized debanking. Old Glory Bank will never debank any law-abiding customer. Our mission is the Constitution. Open an account at oldglorybank.com, and when you get your debit card in the mail, activate it, and you'll get a copy of my latest book, As Goes California, at a 50% discount. oldglorybank.com. That's oldglorybank.com. Relax. Non-citizens aren't voting, right?
Just out of curiosity, are you registered to vote?
Yes, we've already registered.
Are you a citizen?
No.
Are you a citizen? No, I'm waiting for my residency right now. And do you plan to vote this year? Yes. Who do you prefer right now? Kamala or Trump? Or Trump? No, Kamala. Have you been registered? Yes. Are you a citizen or not? And would you vote for Kamala? Well, yeah.
Arizona has recently become the center of election integrity concerns. It was the most closely contested state during the 2020 presidential election, decided by a margin of less than 11,000 votes. The razor-thin margin of victory in 2020 led to intense scrutiny of election integrity measures in the state. The primary concern is that non-citizens could be registering to vote and participating in American elections. However, the mainstream media continues to minimize the issue. The Washington Post said that the issue of non-citizens voting was dishonest. Rolling Stone claimed that the issue was non-existent, and NPR assured its audience that the issue is a myth. The stakes in the 2024 presidential election could not be higher, so we went to Arizona to investigate the matter ourselves. At the Los Vecinos apartment complex in Phoenix, Arizona, we asked residents if they were registered to vote and if they were citizens. The responses we obtained destroy the narrative that non-citizens participating in United States elections is a conspiracy theory.
Hola, señora, ¿cómo está? Somos una organización, ahorita estamos ayudando a la comunidad hispana aquí del área de Phoenix, dándoles información para la gente que igual quieren registrarse para votar aquí en las elecciones en noviembre. Nomás de pura curiosidad, ¿está usted registrada para votar?
Ya nos registramos.
Ah, ok.
Sí.
¿La registraron aquí o en el trabajo? ¿Vinieron? En el trabajo. Okay. ¿Usted es ciudadana? O...
No.
¿Usted ya lo registraron?
Que había una obligación que me dijo que, bueno, fue en la ayuda en la ayuda que nos dan a nosotros los hispanos cuando venimos aquí.
Oh.
Yo puse que sí, que iba a votar, pero bueno, no sé si quiere registrarme ahí.
O sea, usted puso que sí.
Sí, yo puse que sí, me dije, pues, ahí me salió una obligación que si quería votar y yo puse que sí.
¿Y usted es ciudadano?
No, estoy esperando la residencia todavía.
¿Está esperando la residencia? Ok. ¿Y usted planea votar este año?
Sí.
Y usted, la última pregunta es, ¿a quién le gusta a usted ahorita? La Kamala y el Trump.
Y el Trump. No, la Kamala.
La Kamala. ¿Usted dónde nació?
En Cuba.
¿En Cuba?
Sí.
Ok. ¿Está usted registrado para votar?
Creo que ya me registré la semana pasada.
¿Ya se registró?
Sí.
Okay.
Y en el súper que está aquí.
En el súper, lo registraron.
Personas así como ustedes que estaban buscando.
¿Usted es ciudadano?
No, residente.
¿Residente?
Sí.
Ok. De pura curiosidad, ¿usted está registrado para votar?
Sí.
¿Sí? Ok. ¿Lo registraron aquí o en su trabajo? En el trabajo. ¿Usted es ciudadano?
No.
¿No? ¿No es ciudadano? Ok. Nomás de pura curiosidad, ¿usted está registrada para votar?
Sí, ya llenaron eso.
¿Ya?
Sí.
Ok. ¿Vinieron aquí alguien para registrarla?
Ajá.
Pero sí, de curiosidad, ¿usted es ciudadana americana?
No.
¿No?
Todavía no.
Venimos con una organización que ayuda a la gente a registrar para poder votar en las elecciones.
Ya pasaron.
¿Ya? ¿Usted ya está registrado?
Ya.
Oiga, ¿usted es ciudadano o no es?
No. No hay ningún ciudadano.
Ok. Oiga, pero este año la Kamala y el trompudo, ¿usted quién le gusta?
El Trompas dice que el primer día va a empezar a sacar gente.
Usted tuviera que votar por alguien, ¿por quién vota?
Mira, el Trompas es negociante, ¿ok? La Kamala Harris no es negociante, pero la Kamala Harris creo que está con la comunidad, pero pues va a seguir igual, la gasolina va a llegar más cara, todo el dinero lo están mandando para las guerras.
¿Usted votara por Kamala?
Pues sí.
Pero usted lo que hizo, lo bueno de Kamala es que está con la gente
Está con la comunidad, hace promesas pero no cumple.
I call this Kamala speak.
Today is today. And yesterday was today, yesterday. Tomorrow will be today, tomorrow. So live today. So the future today will be as the past today as it is tomorrow.
Really would love to know what your plan is to help lower the cost of living.
Yeah, first of all, thank you both for being here. And yours is a story I hear around the country as I travel. And in terms of both rightly having the right to have aspirations and dreams and ambitions for your family and working hard and finding that the American dream is, for this generation and so many recently, far more elusive than it's been.
Well, let's just give me a second. Let me process that.
Everybody seems to be afraid of AI-produced ads, also called deepfakes. But I'm starting to like them. Don't tell Gavin Newsom.
The economy is failing, and if I'm elected to 4 more years, things are only going to get worse. And so I, Kamala Harris, want to encourage every little girl in America to follow the same career path as me. Prostitution. When I was a prosecutor back in San Francisco, I was an ambitious young woman. If I thought a man could help me with my career, you'd better believe I was hooking up with him. Oh, yeah. Finally, I met the ultimate sugar daddy, San Francisco Mayor Willie Brown.
Willie Brown, who once dated Harris, says he's excited a black woman is on a presidential ticket.
It was wonderful to have that kind of ongoing, daily activity relationship.
Now, Brown is widely credited with helping to launch the senator's career.
Willie was married at the time, and so I was what's called a mistress. As Willie Brown's mistress, I was given lucrative positions in California state government. These were essentially fake jobs, stealing from California taxpayers. For one job, I met just 2 days per month and was paid about $250,000 per year. And so when Donald Trump asks how I'm going to deal with Vladimir Putin or Kim Jong-un, well, let's just say I got a lot of experience dealing with powerful men. Some politicians do backroom deals. I do back rub deals. You know what I'm saying?
Attention, pedestrians!
How you feel?
Oh no! Is there anything I can do? Can I try again?
You know what? I'll ask you a question. If you can answer this one right, I'll let you pass.
Okay, thank you.
All right, listen carefully.
All right.
There's an old man and there's a young kid at the light. So what do you hear first?
The old man, suppose, because the young kid has the whole life.
No! You hit the brakes!
Not too bourgeois.
Jaden has $1 bill, 1 quarter, and 2 pennies. How much money does he have? Jaden broke.
Dinner bell. Every guy I know has been there.
Hey, do you know what the scissors are?
Doug, we have lived in this house for 9 years, okay? The scissors have always been in the same place, and yet you continue to ask me where they are. Not to mention the spatula, the pot holders, the pens. Well, I'll tell you something, honey. I have been a tour guide in my own kitchen long enough. Too many precious moments have been wasted showing you where things are. Just learn. I mean, what if I died? How would you flip a pancake? How would you ever cut anything ever again? Would you just sit here weeping and soiling yourself until somebody came in to help you? No, you wouldn't. You would remember where something is. Yeah, so come on, honey, please. Just this once. Find where the scissors are. Find them. Go ahead, baby. Go get them. Go ahead.
I got them.
You got them. You got them. Now, was that so hard?
Not really, no.
Okay. What do you need now?
Tape.
You do the math.
If I'm in second place and you pass me, what place are you in?
First.
First place.
Yes.
I'm in second place and you pass me. Well, how would you be in first place?
Because I passed you. I passed you, so I'm in first.
I'm in second place, though.
Congratulations. Now I'm in first because I passed you. I passed you. Are we running? Are we driving? It doesn't matter. I passed you. I'm in first.
No.
Just don't get upset that you're not good at running or driving or whatever, and I passed you.
Okay, but I'm in second place.
Yes,
and then
I
you
understand.
pass me.
Right.
Okay. So what place would you be in?
First.
The answer's wrong.
How?
How?
Yeah.
I'm in second place. You passed me. There's somebody in first place. I'm in second. You passed me. That means that you would be in second place.
Last but not least.
Wearing number 1 for the Los Angeles traffic today is 9-year-old Tommy Douglas. Tommy has lived most of his life in the hospital after being born with a potato for a heart and will undergo a heart transplant surgery next weekend. He's about as big of a traffic fan as they come, so in partnership with the Grant-A-Wish Foundation, both teams have agreed to come together and have Tommy run the first play of the game. And he got the handoff, and there he goes. Made a little cutback move, and it looks like he's gonna go all the way. Look at him go. Wow. This is really one of those heartwarming moments in sports where you just, oh my God.
Hope you enjoyed We've Got a Country to Save. Brought to you by my friends at InvestYRefy.com. Invest in America like I do. And by Freedom Chat. Freedom Chat has true end-to-end encryption, no storage of messages on the server, and no commercial use of user data. Speak freely and message privately. Download the app today and subscribe to my Freedom Chat channel at Larry Elder for exclusive hosts and never-before-seen content. We also thank Epoch Times, Old Glory Bank, Patriot Mobile, and Birch Gold. Make sure to follow or subscribe to my channel on whatever platform you are currently using, whether X, YouTube, Facebook, or Rumble. And be sure to patronize our sponsors. And remember, we've got a country to save. Hold up.
Before we go, a bulletin about Hurricane Helene. Let's call this a tale of two Alejandro Mayorkas.
FEMA is tremendously prepared. This is what we do. This is what they do. And the key here, Rebecca, is also to make sure that the communities who are potentially impacted are prepared as well. And it's not just hurricanes and wildfires, also extreme heat, which certainly some parts of the United States are already experiencing. They have exercised these muscles, regrettably, year after year, as the impacts of climate change have been more and more evident. We have seen and experienced increasing frequency and gravity of extreme weather events, and we have protocols in place, not just with respect to the core FEMA personnel, but also to draw upon the resources of the Department of Homeland Security and as well the interagency. We are meeting the immediate needs with the money that we have. We are expecting another hurricane hitting. We do not have the funds, FEMA does not have the funds to make it through the season.
President Joe Biden says those in the affected areas have everything they need, and they're happy.
What do the states in the storm zone need, Mr. President?
Okay.
What do the states in the storm zone, what do they need after what you saw today?
Oh, in the storm zone?
Yes, sir.
I'm wondering what storm you're talking about. They're getting everything they need. They're very happy across the board.
This woman, who happens to be black, didn't seem all that happy.
You know, at this point, the choice is very clear. So for you Democratic shills out there that's still trying to defend this administration, it's over. It's over. You've already had an example what it feels like when you are American first, despite if you don't like him. He always put American first. Now you have an example when you're American last. And they only give you $750 if there is a natural disaster that happened, because they have depleted the FEMA fund of $1.4 billion that was given out to illegal migrants for shelter and food and resources, just like we keep saying. But then they want to jump on the news and mainstream media and tell you that Republicans are lying. They're the ones not passing the bills. They're the one that's holding up funding. No, Department of Homeland Security, the director, all of these people that's in government and in power, they are the ones that work for Biden and Harris. That's who's running this show right now. The natural disaster that happened in these states here, and they do not have no money. How can you get on TV and tell the American citizens, taxpayer citizens, that you don't have no money to give them because you spent it all for illegal migrants?
Now you remember this?
Water where there was once city streets and thriving neighborhoods.
I hate the way they portray us in the media. If you see a black family, it says they're looting. See a white family, it says they're looking for food. And you know it's been 5 days because most of the people are black. And even for me to complain about, I would be a hypocrite because I've tried to turn away from the TV because it's too hard to watch. I've even been shopping before even giving a donation. So now I'm calling my business manager right now to see what is the biggest amount I can give, and just to imagine if I was down there, and those are my people down there. So anybody out there that wants to do anything that we can help with the setup, the way America is set up to help the poor, the black people, the less well off as slow as possible. I mean, this is Red Cross is doing everything they can. We already realize a lot of the people that could help are at war right now, fighting another way, and they've given them permission to go down and shoot us.
And subtle, but in even many ways more profoundly devastating, is the lasting damage to the survivors' will to rebuild and remain in the area. The destruction of the spirit of the people of southern Louisiana and Mississippi may end up being the most tragic loss of all.
George Bush doesn't care about black people.
What's the over-under when someone on MSNBC, Hee Haw, or CNN says, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris don't care about black people? Not very likely, huh?
Don't hold your breath, kid.
And finally, a sincere, heartfelt condolences for those suffering from Hurricane Helene. We wish you all the best. We hope you get the help you need, and we're all praying for you. God bless.